Hey, welcome to 9394, a music podcast with me, Travis. I sure hope you're doing good today. I'm doing awesome because I'm finally getting to talk about one of the albums that I really set out to talk about when making this podcast. I'm a Swervedriver fan, as is my guest today, Rob LeRoy. Rob LeRoy, you might know from being on this show before. He came on to talk about Dinosaur Jr.'s Without a Sound. He's from the band Dharma. Definitely check them out. That's Dharma. And check out the conversation we had talking about this album, Mezcal Head, that we both love a whole bunch.
Hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How you doing, man?
Good. What's going on?
Nothing. Just having a nice kind of Sunday morning, watching TV, relaxing. So it's all going well here. How are you doing?
Did a bunch of lawn work yesterday, and I'm feeling ancient. I had to pry myself out of bed this morning, but we're good. We're making it happen.
You got today to fuck around and relax, I hope?
Yeah. I finished up a couple other things and play some music, and I don't know, I can't ever sit still, apparently, so.
Well, Sundays are good days for relaxing, if you can. I'm going out with a buddy when I finish with you. We're going to go get some lunch, but other than that, I'm going to take it real easy today.
Nice. Someone's got to do it.
Yeah. You want to go ahead and jump into this?
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
Let's do it. Rob, thank you for coming back on the show. I appreciate it. You were a welcome guest when you came on to do Without a Sound, which you are clearly about the wall of sound. You're about the big guitars, which we talked about last time when you were on. And you are, of course, part of the band Dharma. How's Dharma doing?
Doing great, man. We've got a music video that's out that I'm going to probably start promoting more than I currently have. Got a bunch of shows coming up, a couple singles coming out, so I mean, it's been a wild ride lately.
That's great. Yeah, it looks like you've put guys. I mean, I still haven't seen you guys live yet, but I do kind of, I follow you on Facebook, so I've seen some of the stuff that you guys have been doing lately. It seems like you've been busy.
Oh yeah, I don't know how it happened. It just kind of appeared, and I'm not gonna ask twice.
Surely it's because of your appearance on the 9394 podcast.
That's probably the catalyst. In my immediate rise to the start because of this podcast.
Right. So how did you get into the album that we're here to talk about today? And which album are we here to talk about today?
We are talking about the great album Mezcal Head by Swervedriver here.
Yeah. How'd you get into it?
I think we kind of talked a little bit about this last time. I'm a little bit younger than you guys. Mm-hmm. Just kind of stumbled into it, looking around online. I think I was probably looking up something with, guitars or, some of the other nerdy shit that I do. And I saw this guy, he's a tall dude playing the same guitar as me, and I'm like, I should probably check this guy's music out. And then I just kept listening to that album forward and back for the next 2 months. It's great.
It is one of those albums you can really get deep into. It's one of those albums that I return to. I'll do the same thing. I'll spend a few months with it where it's a regular rotation, and then I'll set it down for a while and listen to other stuff. And when I come back to it, it's not like you just pick it up and listen to it once. It's like you got to spend some time with it.
Yeah, and it's a product of when albums were released as albums, the track sync would sing, and listening to something from front to back, which, you know, you don't really have a ton these days with singles. So, and that's one of the cool parts about this album, in my opinion, is that all the tracks kind of really flow into each other purposefully.
I agree. It's an incredibly cohesive album. I got into it because of they were on 120 minutes back when this came out in 1993, and I didn't know what shoegaze was or anything like that. You know, all I knew is that this song Duel, the video for that, I was like, this song is really, really good. This song makes me feel like I'm stoned, even if I haven't smoked weed. Like, it is just one of those kinds of, like, just chill, like, ethereal kind of songs. So I got really into that song, so I figured I'd buy the CD. It was one of the first CDs I bought, actually.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I still have it floating around somewhere. I hope I do. Yeah, I did kind of start culling them at some point, and now I'm, like, regretting that. It may be lost to time. But one of my main memories of this CD, actually, was I remember, like, driving with family. We were going to a funeral. It was like an icy February, I think, or December, and we were like in Appalachias, and like thick, like deep Appalachia, like with like the roads are all winding and all that kind of shit. It's, you know, it's like mountainous, and I'm on the back seat listening to my Discman, listening to this album, and behind me is my cousin and her daughter, and they got in a car accident. They actually went up on the hill and they kind of like rolled back down onto.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so and they were totally fine. They were uninjured. Everybody was fine, despite the fact that they did like 3 or 4 rolls, but. I had like this moment where I remember like pausing the CD and being like, oh, they're in an accident. I remember like pausing the CD mid-song and being like, oh shit, I gotta stop the album. I'm really into this album. and I felt so immediately bad. I remember like getting them into our car, but like grabbing the Discman, like throwing it on the floor, like angrily, like to show myself, like I don't care that much. Like my cousins are totally more important to me than the album Mezcal Head by Swervedriver. But I remember in the moment, I was like, oh shit, yeah, okay, I better pause this. This is what.
Yeah, tough decisions need to be made sometimes.
I guess so. It shouldn't have been that tough, but it is a hell of an album, and everybody was fine. And I was 13. What are you gonna do? Didn't have quite my empathy figured out yet.
Yeah, they're all still going.
Exactly. Everyone's good. So, how about when it comes to this album for you? What is your favorite song?
It's kind of twofold, and I'm glad that you brought up that Appalachia trip, not the car accident and shit. Obviously,
right?
You know, like, yeah, that's awesome.
No,
I did find the track, and thanks for helping me remember this. I found Last Train to Satansville when I was 15 years old on back when you could download viruses directly to your computer for free. were going to Montana for a week in the middle of nowhere. And I also had a Walkman disc player because I wasn't cool enough for an iPod at that time. And that track made it on. So I have like memories of driving for hours and hours and just like the mountains and flatlands of Montana through Indian reservations, and that 7-minute song coming on a couple times. So I'd say that's probably my favorite just because of that memory, but the song that I'll probably listen to the most is Blowin' Cool.
Nice. Okay, so let's spend time with both of those. So Last Train to Satansville, I remember that was like the second single from the album, and they made a pretty decent video for that, which makes sense because the song is very much like a story.
Yeah.
You're getting the story, but also the song, the music itself is a bit of a story. Like, you're told that he's on a train, but what a great driving song that is for a flatland, I can only imagine. Because it's just like you literally feel like you're in a train with the feel of the music, right? I love this moment in the middle of the song, like the second verse, when he's talking about, I'm talking in my drink, and you can like hear just for a second in the background the clink of glasses together, you know? Little things like that, little stuff that they put in there. But it is like such a moody fucking song in a really good way. I'm glad you picked it as one of your favorites, because I didn't pick it as mine, but I was like really tempted to. Because I have like my classic favorite that's always been my favorite on this album, but in listening to it the last couple of weeks, I'm like, man, I don't know, Last Train to Satansville might be the best song on this album. But I agree. If I have to pick my favorite song on this album, it's also Blowing Cool. I mean, or I should say, Blowin' Cool. That fucking bass line intro is one of the best intros, one of the best bass lines ever.
I've tried to model a lot of our bass sounds off of that in some instances of the song. It's weird because this band is classified under that shoegaze moniker, but I feel like around that time in the UK, everybody was shoegaze. I don't feel like these guys are very shoegaze, just classic sets. I mean, they're doing a lot without the, pedal board motherships that I'm guilty of using and everyone in that genre was. I mean, thinking of it from more of like a technical perspective, and sorry if I'm boring them, but there's not a lot of effects or distortion or, any of that crazy, whoa, 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 that you have in guitars. It's more like the little details, like you were saying about Last Train to Satansville, that little ice clink, like that's kind of more of how they created more like the effects and everything, but just kept it really basic with their instruments, at least with their sound wise, and was able to do a lot with just imagination and good playing.
I'm glad that you said that about them not really feeling like shoegaze to you, because as I've been getting ready for this episode, I've like looked into it. I'm like, Googled them in ways I didn't really before, and I'm seeing all this stuff about them being shoegaze. I'm like, oh, I guess they're shoegaze. Shoegaze is one of those fucking genres that I feel like people tell me after the fact that some band is shoegaze, and I'm like, oh, I thought they were just, indie. But okay, I'll go with that. And I guess that maybe they're shoegaze because of the level of guitar, like, it's the production value, maybe? I'm not sure. I'm not sure who produced this album. Do you know off the top of your head, Mezcal Head?
No idea.
I don't either. I'm trying to look real quick, but I'm not seeing it. Produced by Alan Mulder and Swervedriver. So I think that the production value on this album is really great. I think there is a wall of guitar, but it doesn't feel like the Damascus Corgan kind of like assault of the guitar. It's all just really, really clear, like you say, like not overly distorted and that kind of stuff. Even though I think there's some distortion going on with the bass on Blowing Cool.
Yeah.
And still, it's pretty, like you can really separate each instrument well from one another and tell what everyone's doing.
And there's a lot of kind of what's known as compression that's used that increases like the sustain of notes rather than just having an overdriven signal. This kind of reminds me a lot of the Steve Albini Converge, almost like how In Utero was recorded, like where everything's just super, super clear, but it just makes it more heavy somehow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a rawness to it, but not so raw that it bleeds together or anything like that. It's really crisp.
Yeah, they did a great job. Whatever they I don't know.
Yeah, I feel you. I agree completely. So, Blowing Cool being, like, I guess the obvious best song for both of us, if you had to pick. What about the least impressive? I don't feel like there's a bad song on this album. There's not really a bad moment on this album, but I guess we have to kind of determine if there's a least good song on here. Did you come up with one?
Duress is pretty cool, but I'm not going to listen to, like, the whole 15 minutes or whatever it is. That's a pretty long one, so...
Okay. That's actually the one I chose for my underrated, in part because it's a long one. These guys are like the kings of the fucking outro, but that's their intro song. It's like 7 minutes, or I don't know how long it is. It's pretty lengthy, that song. Let me see.
8 minutes and 3 seconds.
And it takes a good 5 or 6 before the vocals come in. I like that song a lot because it's one that you can really kind of get lost in, and I had just kind of glazed over it for most of my time listening to it because it's so long and because that intro takes so long. But in listening to it recently, I've been just like, wow, the way that the vocal harmony works with the guitar, like they're talking to each other, I really, really dig it. I do understand it being, maybe if you got to pick a least favorite, I can understand it maybe not being your favorite.
Yeah, it's cool when you're listening to the whole album as an album. I mean, I probably won't necessarily seek that out unless I'm doing so.
Mm-hmm. It's very much like the middle of the album kind of song. It's like, okay, we're going to get lost in this shit for a little while, and then, because it could almost be like the last song of the album, but it's not placed there. And at 8 minutes, you think it's like a long song on the album. That's kind of the regular on this album. Most of the songs are like, even their singles are like 5-6 minutes long.
Yeah, I like that. I find that it's tough to write shorter songs myself, so I kind of appreciate, having a song be more of a mood than more of a structured track. It's more meant to convey an emotion or a story, or get you to another point in the album.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, Duel into Blown Cool. Right there. You have that outro. Fits perfectly in with that little police siren making me look behind my back if there's a cop following.
I think that this band is really good at these kind of segues into other songs, although I don't care for the opening of the album. I hate an album when it starts like super quiet. I'm like trying to figure out what volume I want to set my shit at, and it's like all of a sudden it's like blaring at me again. Like, okay, I wish you'd just come at me with the music. So I had to choose a least favorite song, and I ended up going with You Find It Everywhere. Is something of a jam band without sounding like a fucking jam band. You know what I mean? Like the way they construct their songs is so intricate, and like they're clearly focused on the music before the subject matter, the lyrics, it seems like, for the most part. But You Find It Everywhere is maybe the most accessible song on the album. I'm kind of surprised it wasn't the first single. I'm not against conventionality, but it's one that just kind of feels to me like the one they put the least effort into, I guess.
I was going to say Phoned In.
Yeah.
Pretty fucking harsh for this band.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe not Phoned In, but yeah, definitely like not their crowning achievement. Like it seemed like they've maybe spent the least amount of time on that one.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm glad you feel the same. It's good. They're all good. The album as a whole is so entertaining, and it really like draws you in. Like as you say, it's like moody in most of these places, and that song just doesn't really fit the mood of the rest of the album either. It's a lot more, I don't know, just kind of friendly.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were just talking about, a little earlier, the bass and stuff like that in the album. I learned something yesterday, and I can kind of like hear it in some of those bass lines, a little bit of like anger, because I guess their bass player left like right before they were going to record this album.
Oh.
To have the guitar player, and I don't remember who else, but another member of the band had to jump in and at the last moment record all the dude's bass parts. And I think that kind of behind the scenes stuff is kind of interesting sometimes.
That is interesting. I knew that he had left, but I thought it was after the album. I didn't know that it was like, so he wrote the bass lines and then the other guys like remembered his bass lines and played them after he was gone.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
I know, right?
They have kind of gone through like some permutations as a band. Are they a band that you've stuck with? Because for me, I got to admit, I have listened to the album before this and the album after this, but I've really been zeroed in on this album, even though I've had fucking 30 years with it. I've just really just stayed with this album.
I mean, I'm kind of there with you, and I feel kind of bad about it. Like, I probably check out. I'm going to do that today after this. Right? Swervedriver, if you're listening, I apologize. I will definitely check out your other shit.
Yeah, I agree, Swervedriver. I also apologize. I know that you're more than one album, but what a fucking album. It's always kind of felt like enough. I'm like, I'm still soaking this one in after 30 years.
Yeah.
All right, I'm glad you feel the same. I'm sure you and I aren't alone on that. Not that they're overwhelming, like in a bad way. It's just like, it's such a pristine album in some ways. And I did this a lot with albums I got into at this age in particular. I almost deliberately wouldn't pick up their other stuff because I didn't want to like disrupt it, like it's so pristine. I feel so good about it. I don't want like what happened with like Lemonheads, where I loved Shame About Ray, and then Come On Feel came out and I'm like, oh, well, this is an album, I guess. And it's just like it ends up kind of affecting your feelings of the band. It's like if I just love the one album, they can't disappoint me.
I get that. And that's definitely happened to kind of more of like a contemporary band. They got really, really popular with people maybe 5 years younger than me lately. Is a band called the Arctic Monkeys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
Their first album, I think it's the one where the album covers a guy smoking a cigarette. It's like, whatever you said about me, that's what I'm not, or something like that.
The big album.
That album fucking crushed it. I loved that album. And then everything else that they've done since then is like a mix of like trying to be David Bowie and not making good music at the same time. I don't really know It was frustrating, but
Yeah.
I'm never like that, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. So, what about you in terms of your underrated song on here? Would you pick to be your underrated song?
Probably Change Is Gonna Come. It's a track that I kind of rediscovered when going back through this album to kind of, prepare a little bit for this. And I was like, man, I just kind of kept skipping it, really. Like, it was just kind of, I want to hear the next song. I want to hear Girl on a Motorbike. Or, like, it just... and I don't really have any reason why I never really got into it. I wish I could say something really profound and well rehearsed and everything, but it just slipped by me.
No, I think I did the same thing with it. I considered it as my underrated track too, because when I think of the album, I think of Blowin' Cool, I think of Duel, I think of Satansville, and I completely forgot this was on here. I've listened to it a bunch of times, but like you, it just wasn't one that I focused on.
Yeah.
For a long time, I didn't know that Adam Franklin, the singer, is mixed race. And he's clearly talking about racial issues and that kind of stuff. For an album that doesn't have a lot of messaging in it, the song's got a great message, and he does a great job of the messaging of the song. And the feel of the song is unlike you find it everywhere, where there is a lighter feel to the song, but it does fit with the rest of the album in a better way, I feel like.
For sure. I actually didn't know any of that until you just told me right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no clue.
Yeah. I can't speak for sure if he's white and black. I'm not sure exactly what race he is. And as he says, in the song, something along the lines of you don't like the color of my skin, something like that. He's directly addressing that, which I imagine being in that scene in the 90s in London and then the world, there wasn't a ton of other non-white lead rockers, at the time. They were out there, but not many.
Yeah. Huh. Gives me a new perspective on that. I'm going to have to revisit that now again, too.
It's a cool song. What song you want to use to go out on for our episode here?
MM Abduction is always my number one.
Yeah?
I like that riff. I don't know why. It sounds like it would be a cool outro. It does.
Okay, cool. That's a good call. I feel like there's so many songs on here that are underrated. They're all underrated. The whole band is underrated. This album's underrated. And we ourselves have underrated the band by not getting into other albums. I don't know what it is about this band, but they deserve a lot more attention.
All right, listeners, don't fuck this up. A pledge to go listen to a different Swervedriver album today. You better do it too. Let's get you guys going.
I solemnly swear to do that soon.
Yeah.
Maybe not today. I gotta listen to the Crow soundtrack today. That's my next episode. But yeah, I will definitely be checking out some of their other stuff. Which, I have before, but just when I'm in the mood to listen to, I'm going to this album. I gotta spread my wings a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, anything else you want to say about this band or this album before we move on?
Not much. This whole album, I feel like, is kind of like a movie soundtrack in on its own. So very theatrical and flows really well. And I'm just happy to be able to talk about it for a half hour while avoiding my wife upstairs telling me to do things.
I'm glad I could help in both of those departments.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I agree. It is theatrical is a good way of putting it. As you said earlier, it's an album you really want to spend time with. There's select songs you could throw on a mix or something, but in reality, this is an album to be enjoyed all in one go.
Yeah.
And that last song, too, I do want to mention, what's it called? It's got 2 names. Never Lose That Feeling and Never Learn. Talk about a long fucking epic song. These guys really know how to make epic feeling songs.
12 minutes.
Yeah, cinematically epic.
Like half a Tool song.
All right, we're going to wrap things up here talking about movies from 1993. A little bit before your time, but maybe you know some about some of these movies. And I'm kind of curious because some of the movies that came out, this album Mezcal Head came out in the UK, it came out on September 27th, but in the US, it was October 5th of 1993. The other podcast I have is called Cinema 9, based on the movie theater where I grew up. My buddies grew up. 9 cinemas in the Brighton Cinema 9 theater. So I'm going to give you 9 different movies from 1993. Tell me which ones you know of at all, if you're even familiar with them, because I'm curious which ones have kind of like stuck around in the consciousness, you know what I mean? And anything else you have to say about them, and then which one you would pick if you were in a time machine and you were in the movie theater in 1993. Which one of these would you watch? So The Good Son is the first option. This is Elijah Wood is a little kid, and Macaulay Culkin is a little kid, like after, I think, Home Alone, but playing a homicidal 10-year-old. It's a horror movie.
That was a weird-ass movie, yeah. I think I saw it like a long time ago, just like with friends back in the late 90s or something. Like.
Okay, so you did see it. All right, yeah, Kevin Bannister killing people, basically, is what we have in that movie.
Yeah.
Okay. Dazed and Confused. Are you familiar with that one?
Of course, yeah, everyone's familiar with that one. That was a pretty strong contender for 93.
Yes, I figured that would be one that you would be aware of, as well as the next one, Cool Runnings.
Yeah, a little bit.
I've never seen it, but how could I not be aware of the Jamaican bobsled movie, right? Like, I know of it.
That's pretty much all I know, that it exists. I can't say I've seen it, but...
Yeah, I've seen an ironic t-shirt or two out there.
Yeah.
Right, okay. The Program, James Caan movie about like football. A Bronx Tale. Are you familiar with this movie?
Nah. I'm also not the biggest movie guy either.
All right, well, fair enough. So I will not judge you on that. Bronx Tale was like the first movie Robert De Niro directed. Shortcuts, a Robert Altman movie with like an ensemble piece with a ton of actors from back at that time, including Tom Waits. Malice, early medical malpractice movie starring Nicole Kidman. Probably not one you've heard of.
Weirdly, my mom loved that movie.
Oh, really?
I not like the happiest movie of all time either, but okay.
Okay. You got a frame of reference for it. I mean, I'm honest, of all of these, this is the one I thought you'd be least familiar of.
It should. I don't know why.
For Love or Money with Michael J. Fox. No one remembers this movie. Neither should you. And then Warlock the Armageddon, which was the sequel to Warlock. They brought Julian Sands back and had him play a different Warlock because they killed off his character in the first one. And we're like, no, we liked you playing a Warlock.
Retconning their own canon. All right, cool.
Yeah. So you're going to go back in time and watch these movies. Which one are you watching? Good Son, Dazed and Confused, Cool Runnings, The Program, A Bronx Tale, Shortcuts, Malice, For Love or Money, or Warlock 2, The Armageddon.
I think seeing Cool Runnings in theaters as it came out would have been hilarious and awesome, so I'm going to have to choose that one 150%.
I think that's a great call. I mean, I've never even fucking seen the movie, but if we're going to see it, we might as well see it when it first came out.
That's what I'm saying.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you again for doing this.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. As always.
Take it easy. I think I kind of owe you an apology, listener, and I most definitely owe Rob LeRoy an apology. I don't know what happened with the audio there. You may have noticed this episode's kind of short and that I overtalked my guest even more than usual. There was something going on with the connection or something where when we recorded, he sounded fine, but a lot of it, when it actually showed up on the recording, it came out clipped and kind of garbled, so I had to cut out some of what he had to say, so I apologize for that. But all the same, I very much appreciate his insights and opinions about this fucking great album. Definitely one I really wanted to spend some time with, and I'm glad I got to. So, thanks, Rob. As I said at the start of the show, Rob is from the Michigan band Dharma, Dharma, and here's a little taste of his band. This is the track Aspartate, or Aspart. I'm not sure. It's spelled Asparte. Spotify and YouTube, and probably other places as well, I would bet. Throw Rob some support. And if you, listener, want to be on this show, you'd be very welcome. And if you don't want to come on the show, that's fine too, but maybe you know someone that would be a good fit. A cousin or a brother or a buddy or something like that, your mom, I don't know, somebody that you know loves music from 93, 94, send them my way if there's someone that is loquacious like myself. I'd love to talk to them. If you or someone you know wants to come on the show, all you gotta do is email me at 9394podcast@gmail.com, or I'm on Facebook. You can find me there too. That's 9394podcast@gmail.com. What else? For a minute there, I almost gave you my health update, my regular health update, but you don't need to be exposed to further examples of my hypochondria, so I'll just leave it at that. I appreciate everybody listening. If you're a regular listener, please do rate and review the show on whatever platform you're listening to the podcast on. It does help. It means a lot to me. And that's it. Thank you. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. '93 '94 Music Podcast with Travis Roy is a labor of love. It is not and never will be monetized. Please don't sue.